Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 57 of Just Another G.I. Joe Show, as it says on the banner at the bottom of your screen. I'm Fred from JBL, one of the two hosts. Sadly, Mike Tinnell is not with us tonight. There was an emergency in the Strawberry Shortcake fan community, and Mike had to run off to get a limited edition collectible of the peculiar purple pie man of Porcupine Peak. Mike, we miss you. With us again tonight, off to my side, is Mr. Bobby Vala, frequent guest host on the show. Actually, almost a co-host at this point. Former Hasbro designer and the mastermind behind the currently funding 1/12 scale Valaverse Action Force line, which just launched yesterday. My subtle plug here is when you're done watching this tonight, we're only going to go about 45 minutes. We're going to jump over to Valaverse's Facebook page, and we're going to do a live there where Bobby will be taking questions from anyone that has questions about the show. We'll be showing some screens and kind of talking about anything Valaverse. So if you haven't followed that page, come on. What are you waiting for? A signed invitation? And also, if you have not checked it out, get your butts to Kickstarter.com, look up Action Force or Valaverse. It is the project that is still funding. So without further ado, Bobby, how the heck are you?
I am great, thank you. Thank you, as usual, for having me on. I always enjoy coming on the show with you guys. I wouldn't say it's sad that Mike is not here tonight, so yeah.
You know, it's 100% less Tiger Force love.
Exactly. But no, excited to talk about this. You know, I love just talking about Action Force, and now that the Kickstarter is live, it's even more exciting to talk about it. So it's been, about 24 hours, a little over 24 hours since it launched. So really exciting. Good response so far. I'm really happy with the turnout. So yes, just like Fred said, go on over. If you haven't pledged, please pledge or share it with anyone that is a toy enthusiast, a military lover, 6-inch fan, G.I. Joe fan, anything. Hopefully people see this and think this is just a cool line that they have to have it.
And for anybody watching this on YouTube, if you have any questions, pop them down in the comment section. We will be able to see them now. Now that Mike's not running the controls, we'll actually be able to field questions. And I'll get them over to Bobby where he can see them. So, we are now just about 24 hours in. And the Valaverse is at 100 backers. And oh my gosh, Bobby's still there. Good. We are just at about 100 backers so far. And I believe, let's do a quick check of the tote board. I feel like I'm on a PBS pledge break. With 29 days to go, it doesn't show me the percentage. But I think we're over 10%, which is, it's Father's Day weekend.
We are.
Like,
we are at 12%.
Oh, look at that. So,
if I don't know if you've seen the site KickTrack. KickTrack like literally tracks every project and what it's scheduled to kind of fund for. And so I'll pull it up right now and it'll give us the projections. They've been fluctuating a little bit here and there, but it says that I am trending towards 334,459, which is 196% of the goal. So that's a great number. If that number came in, I'd be very, very happy. That means we hit a bunch of stretch goals. A little over 400 gets them all. So that'd be great to get through all the stretch goals. But I just want the project to fund. So please get your pledges in there. If you got any questions about the pledges, how they work, the tiers, and that, just send a message and I'll walk you through it.
I think one of the things now that it's nice that it's finally revealed is we can see what the actual stretch goals are.
Yeah.
And so you've been killing it with the reveals so far. We've seen Eclipse, we've seen a certain collector of bones who better fund. And so to see those as stretch goals, I think I like the incentive there. It's like, hey man, tell your friends, get everybody pumped about this. Bobby, can you go, and before we talk more about the kick, let's just talk a little bit about, again, if we haven't already done this, talk to us about why Action Force, and why a 1/12 scale military line? I mean, we all know that your credentials have been well established with stuff such as this, but why military? So,
well, when I was kind of thinking about what I wanted to do, if I wanted to do my own project, and what would it be? Obviously, I'm just, an Uber Joe fan. And, working on the brand and getting close to doing a 6-inch line, it was a bummer that I didn't get to finish it, to have it see the light of day. So when I was thinking, I'm like, well, I would love to do 6-inch Joes. It was a no-brainer, especially with Hasbro not doing anything with the brand and kind of just letting it die a slow death. I'm just like, there's people out there that want product. You saw that at JoeCon, and it's like there's so many fans left, and the brand is thriving, and they're not being given anything. So I said, okay, well, obviously going to do military, but I looked at 3 3/4, because I'm a lover of 3 3/4, and it's what the Joe scale is. But there was a lot of people kind of playing in that arena, between like fantasy with Boss Fight, and Marauders had military cover. There was just a lot of 3 3/4 coverage. John's got his Cowboys, so I was like, that's maybe not a good area to play in, because everything's kind of covered. But then I said, well, no one's doing 6-inch military right now, and I thought, well, shoot, with HasCon being canceled and the Joe movie getting pushed out to whenever, that means that spot, that white space for 6-inch military was wide open. And I said, that's where I'm going. And I put my sights on it, and that it was kind of easy just to go at it like that. And then, the idea of kind of, I don't remember how it came about. I don't know if I was talking with a friend of mine about it, about like abandoned trademarks, but it just so happened that the idea kind of came up to the surface about, hey, you should see what's available, because I saw like what Bill Murphy did with the Eagle Force, and it's like, it's cool that he got an abandoned trademark, and I think that's great. So if the company turns their back on it and they're not doing anything with it, hey, it's fair game. So then I just started searching, and obviously I couldn't use G.I. Joe, but what's kind of the next best thing? What was G.I. Joe called in the UK? Action Force. And it's also a cool name. Like I besides the fact that it has like a nostalgic flair to it, I just like the name. It's powerful. It's cool looking. So it was a no-brainer to just call it that.
Well, and it's a descriptive name. It's not sitting on their butts behind a desk force.
Yeah.
This is literally something that implies dynamic action, and for an action figure, that seems to make a lot of sense. And so your background, for like the 5 people out there that don't know who you are, your background is really more in 1/6 scale. Well, you started off doing 3/4 Marvel at Hasbro, but then you've done more almost, haven't you, in the 1/12 scale space now?
That's a good question. No, I think I did more 3 3/4, because I did 3 3/4 from 2014 to 2017.
Okay.
And then I really only did 6-inch for like the last 2 years. There was back when I was there in my office, I had all the 3 3/4-inch figures on the wall of my office. So it was like every time I got a wave, I pinned them up. So it got to the point where, 3 years later, I had a ton of figures on my wall, and it was cool to see how many I got to do, and then the multi-packs and the box sets. So there was a lot of them that were done. The unfortunate part about working on 3 3/4 was the first year I got to kind of have carte blanche and use good, highly articulated bodies, and then it got to the point where they were like, we need to cut costs, so you're gonna have to remove, I don't know, something like 6 or 8 articulation points. And I was like, there's no figure then.
Yeah.
So, which is why like a figure like Beast was such an awesome figure to get to do, and I love the sculpt, and I love the way he came out, but he couldn't articulate. He didn't have a chest cut.
Yeah.
You know, barely had rocker ankle. So it was just one of those things that was kind of like a bummer that I wasn't able to do that figure justice. And then, you know, I heard it. I heard it from the fans on how much they hated what we were doing with the line, but it was like, it wasn't my fault. I was kind of told to design with my hands tied behind my back. So it was a total bummer because I love that line. I think there were big shoes to fill. You know, Dave Vonner, for those who know him, he kind of did the 3 3/4-inch Marvel Universe brand forever and then made it awesome. And then, yeah, I came in, I took it over, and I had you know, the first year in 2014, there were some really good waves, like the Deathlock and Death's Head and Ares wave. Those were some of my favorite. And then it just started going downhill from there. But then towards the tail end, I was really pushing to like get costs back in these items. So that's what you saw in the Gamerverse sets, like shoot, what was his name now? The Captain America from Contest of Champions. That's all armored up.
Yeah. He's sitting in the other room.
Yeah. So I was able to put like, you know, a chest cut back in that figure, and I was able to do it for other figures too. So I slowly started to bring articulation back, but by then the line was kind of already dead. Retailers weren't taking it. 6-inch was so hot, but I knew it. I knew once they got greedy and 3 3/4 was doing so well, and then they said, hey, let's bring back 6-inch. Both weren't going to survive. Something was going to win out. And because 6-inch was so established with Toy Biz, there was no way that 3 3/4 was going to last.
I was always curious about that when the 3 3/4 line launched, because Hasbro at that point was doing Marvel Legends, and then they're introducing Marvel in 2 scales.
Mm-hmm.
And so can you talk a little bit about the transition from working on a 3 3/4-inch product to a 6-inch? You know, it's in terms of like, you know, from a design standpoint, from a production standpoint, how different really is it, other than, you know, obviously size?
It really wasn't different at all. I mean, you have to be on your A game for sure, because there's so many more eyes on 6-inch. You know, it was like on 3 3/4, I would do the figures and they would go to basically production. You know, like Dwight would never really see a lot of the ones I was doing. But then like 6-inch, you kind of wanted to see everything, and he was more involved with that just because he was running 6-inch at the time. So the only difference really was that there was more people watching 6-inch, and there was more cooks in the kitchen. People had more of a say.
We may be losing Mr. Vala.
Oh, got me back?
Yep, you're back.
Yeah, the licensor, you know, had more input with you know, the wave selection for 6-inch, just because it was just the hot thing. 6-inch is what everyone wanted, and that's all anybody cared about.
Why do you think the market has shifted away from 3 3/4 to 6-inch? I mean, because in some ways, and you know, 3 3/4 would be cheaper, and they take up less shelf space, and yet, you know, clearly sales are much greater for a 6-inch product.
Yeah, I think what it comes down to is you could just do more. You can do more, and you get more bang for your buck. So, you know, from a production standpoint, it costs almost the same amount of money to tool a 3 3/4-inch figure that it does a 6-inch figure. So why wouldn't you get better margin on a 6-inch figure? Then there's you just get better deco, better quality, better everything. It's like you see the face of a 3 3/4-inch figure. You try to do an actor likeness on a 3 3/4-inch figure, it never comes out good.
Yeah.
Just eye deco can never get like pinpointed in. But 6-inch, you could just do so much more. And look what they're doing with 6-inch with the digital tampoing with the actors' faces. So that kind of thing, you know, I think maybe Star Wars was looking into that for 3 3/4, but I don't think it's going to look good if they do it. But 6-inch is just, you can just do more. It just works. And now, you know, 3 3/4 was big because of vehicles and play sets. Nobody does vehicles and play sets anymore.
Yeah.
It's more about the character, you know, and imposing out the character rather than a world building. So I think that's kind of the trend, and everyone kind of sort of started to do it like all at the same time. So you had Mattel Mattel was 6-inch on their DC line for years.
Yeah.
They were doing those lines. Marvel, obviously people loved when Legends came back, and Legend wasn't gone for that long, only like a couple years.
Yeah.
So it wasn't enough for people to kind of get off the train. But just other brands in general, Master of the Universe stuff came out as a 6-inch figure. NECA was doing 6-inch figures. It was just, just more of an optimal figure. You could just do more. It was just better looking. And that's, it just kind of happened. There was no start hey, this is what we're doing. We're going to change the trend. It just happened. It just happened kind of organically. And, it's either you kind of adapt or you don't. Like a lot of the Joe fans that have messaged me and said hey, the line's great. I wish you luck, but I'm a 3 3/4-inch collector, so I'm not gonna pledge on it. It's like, well, what are you buying? There's nothing left out there. Fortnite came out, but Fortnite is Fortnite. It's not everyone's into Fortnite. Yeah. They're more of an edgy kind of video game style. They're not that realistic military, but you're not getting anything. So if you're just going to stick to 3 3/4, well, what are you buying now? Are you, once you fill up your collection, what do you, with past Joe stuff and the club stuff, then what's left? For me, there's nothing left. I mean, I could just keep buying Steel Brigade figures, but there's nothing else left for me. So that, that's, I wonder what those collectors are doing. What are they buying?
And I think that's a really good point, is, again, as primarily a 3 3/4 inch collector myself, Fortnite came out and that was filling a nice void. But then, even though I can't find them in my area right now, Fortnite is also doing a 6-inch. So Jazzware is doing what Hasbro did a number of years ago, 2 scales, the same property. As much as I love the 4-inch stuff, I have a feeling that 6-inch is probably going to end up winning out.
I'm a little intrigued by that too, just because of the state of things. It was smart that they launched with 4-inch, but they got stuff out so quickly that it's 4-inch was out for 6 months, and then 6-inch is out now. So I'm going to watch that really closely to see how that turns out. I know that, the 4-inch is big because of the world building with the building materials, but 6-inch is 6-inch. Those are your consumer. If you think about it, who's playing Fortnite? It's not 6, 7, and 8-year-olds, right? You're not playing Fortnite until you're probably older. So I wouldn't say it's a kid focused line, but I could be wrong. So who are your consumers? Is it 18 plus that are your consumers? If that's the case, then we know that the majority of them are 6-inch collectors. So it'll be interesting to see how that all happens. I'll be definitely keeping a close eye on it for sure.
Well, there's something to be said. We've heard this before about people always wanted to be able to have, Luke Skywalker and Snake Eyes and, Wolverine, and basically to take all their action figures in one scale, like a big stew, and set up these dioramas. And especially on Instagram. I mean, Instagram anymore is the single greatest thing for figure collectors because of all the figure photography.
Yeah.
And so I think, again, your decision to go not in my beloved 1/18th, I don't see it so much as a screw you, Vala. I really see it as a, recognizing the market trend. And let's be honest, the handwriting is on the wall. Unfortunately, the pendulum always swings. At one point, everything was 12-inch. And then it swung and everything went 3 3/4, 4-inch. And, they tried Super Joe in an interim size and it didn't take. Yeah. And the pendulum swings back. And, they tried Joe in a bigger scale with Sigma 6 and it did all right. I mean, those are fantastic figures for kids. And they, but it 6-inch seems to be where it's at. So when you made the decision to go to 6-inch, what basically I noticed that the figures that you've put up, the mock-ups for, and the control art, I mean, my God, there's a lot of parts in there. You did not skimp on detail. Is this something that 6-inch really is allowing you to go hog wild on and not have it be a single bullet the size of a grain of rice.
Yep, absolutely. Like things like the magazines that come out of the rifles and can fit in the pouches on the vest. You can't do that at 3 3/4. You know, it just doesn't work that way. The quality's just not there at that lower scale. So I wanted to make sure I was doing like a gorgeous figure. I wanted the figure to kind of be like a piece of art in a way. But I wanted to push it. I wanted to be able to make the best figure possible. So that's why I was just kind of pushing the envelope and, you know, seeing where I can end up with this kind of stuff.
And okay, you know, I know we have, you know, Legends are out there in Star Wars Black, and even the Power Rangers now. Both Bandai was doing it, now Hasbro's doing it.
Yeah.
Action Force appears to be designed proportionally to fit in with those. If somebody wanted, you know, the worthy Captain America that's hitting Walmarts now to stand, you know, shoulder to shoulder with Action Force. I mean, is that part of the design intent as well?
Yep. You know, it's kind of like when Creo came out, it's like, well, of course they wanted to work with Lego. It'd be stupid to not do that. So for, you know, I wanted to make sure that these figures fit into that Legends world. You know, if anything, there might be slightly like a couple millimeters shorter than a Legends figure, but they're also more realistically proportioned, like a human, not like a superhero. So they're not big and bulky, but they do have vests and all this gear. Even down to the pegs on the feet and the holes in the back are the same size as Marvel Legends figures. So if you know, there's, I think Star Wars Black Series is the same way with the peg holes in the feet. So if you have stands that you've already bought for your figures, then you can put the Action Force figures on those stands, and vice versa. The stands that come with the Action Force figures, you can put a Legends and a Black Series figure on those stands as well. So I wanted kind of a seamless flow as far as collecting goes. You know, backpacks, that sort of thing, because people love the Action Force line, but they really like it for the gear and their customizers, and they want to put the backpacks and the rifles on the Marvel Legends. Hey, more power to you. You know. That's fine. So I made it just easy to do it.
How and okay, that was going to be my question then is, you know, yes, I know that in the G.I. Joe worlds, the figures have removable gear, especially the club stuff, but trying to get that off requires, you know, sometimes some feats of plastic, you know, gymnastics just to make it work. How easy is it going to be if somebody wants just to say, you know what, I want Condor, but I want Condor stripped down to the basics. How easy is it to break him down?
It's going to be as easy as possible that we can make it. I know that.
Russian interference.
Pop. There'll be a break at the waist, so you can pop the torso off and interchange legs. There'll be a break at the boot line, so you can pop the boots off and interchange the boots. Obviously, the hands, the head. I was trying to do the shoulders, but because people wanted the butterfly joint, you can't have it both ways. So adding the butterfly joint makes it harder to remove the arm from that joint. There's more risk of damage for when you're heating that up and trying to remove that one from the butterfly joint.
And that's actually interesting. Is the butterfly joint came about? That was not your original intent, but that was more a response to the market.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've said it from the beginning. This line isn't about me. It's for everyone. So for a joint I don't like, you know, but at the same time, I felt like it might be necessary for the figure to hold a pistol in a combat pose. So I just kind of threw it out there. I said, let me just gauge this, because it's never really been gauged before in a vote kind of way. And it was kind of overwhelming. And the response for the butterfly joint, because there were people that said, if it doesn't have the butterfly joint, I won't buy it. But then there were people that said, well, if it has butterfly joint, I'll still buy it even though I don't like it. So it made more sense to do the butterfly joint than to not do the butterfly joint. And it seemed like everyone was happy when I put it in.
And not a lot of Marvel Legends. I was just looking at Deadpool to verify that Scooter Deadpool doesn't have it. I think, isn't it just the X-Force Deadpool?
Yeah, they were doing it on slimmer figures. Like, it kind of started because of Spider-Man, and then the newer Deadpool body, they put it on that one. But now I think on the new big Hulk, 80th anniversary Hulk, it's on that figure. But yeah, the kind of medium to large superhero body, they just haven't put it in yet, and they haven't put it on females. But females, you can get away with it because there's less shoulder width. You can get them in those poses easier. So my female figures won't have the butterfly joint, but the male figures will.
One of the things too I noticed, and by the way, if anybody has any questions, feel free to. I know it's a little trickier on YouTube than it is on Facebook. We've had a couple comments posted. Cookies Bricks is like, "Hey guys, really excited for Action Force."
Yes.
And then, oh boy, I am gonna butcher your name, Benny Benzino Orzko. God, sorry, man. Has just said he's looking forward to army building.
Yeah.
Which, and that brings up a point, is I noticed on the Valorverse figures, there's not one but two heads.
Yes. So that was an idea by a good friend of mine who's sort of helping out, consulting with the project. He also kind of got me in with the factory that I'm at. He said to me, "You're probably going to want to throw like a balaclava head in. I know you want to keep these figures unique, but just to give people that troop builder aspect, throw that head in there and let them have that option." So Condor has it, and Downrange has it. They're the only two right now that have that extra balaclava head, but it'll give you options. And then the Garrison troopers have the balaclava head under their mask.
Yeah.
So there'll be enough of them out there that you'll be able to interchange them. And there's different skin tones, African American, white, tan,
nice.
for that balaclava head. So you have like a range of it.
Okay, so in other words, when you're looking at your Kickstarter levels, you don't have to just do the one of everything. Benny just corrected me. Yes, I follow Benny on Instagram as the Benzino Project, which if you've not checked out his pictures. But I think that, I think doing that and offering people a troop builder, you're putting all this effort into designing these fantastic figures, and it's just a head that they can swap out, so that now when they're picking their reward levels, they can, hey, you know what? I like this body and I want to get a couple extra and not have to worry about how are they going to customize it. Head pops off, head goes on. Mm-hmm. Now you've got some squatties.
Yep.
Very cool. Do you think as a designer, and again, with G.I. Joe being in kind of this quiet period now, we do have to talk a little Joe just because it is, a Joe show.
Of course.
But just on your observation, it seems like the market is still hungry for something Joe-esque. Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely. I mean, the last year of TRU product sold out. So that just goes to show you that I know it wasn't a big run, but it sold through. And the fact that product sells out and then Hasbro goes, yeah, no, we don't want to do anymore. Why would you not? Why would you not do another year of, you could have gotten another year of TRU exclusives before TRU closed down.
Yeah.
But they had no desire to put any effort into anything Joe without a movie on it. Like, I just don't get that mentality. I'm not there anymore, so I can say this. There's a bunch of really, really dumb people at the top. There's a dumb woman there, and there's a bunch of dumb guys. And they just they don't really give a shit about the brand at all. Like, at all. She got burned on movie 1, so she's never had a good taste for Joe, but she doesn't understand. These stupid marketers and VPs and senior VPs, they just don't get it. Like, they don't understand like the history of something, and that if you just test it and you put it out there, it'll sell. If you give it to them, it'll sell. They just zero desire. And it was always so frustrating that they just didn't do anything with this brand that made that company. Like, no one cared. No one cared. And it's unfortunate that like Alan Hassenfeld is really not involved anymore. Yeah, he's on the board, so he collects a paycheck and that's that. But it's like he's not calling the shots, and it's like that must burn him up that they're not doing anything with G.I. Joe. And it's kind of like, I wonder if he's like, man, I wish I had a say and I could just tell them what to do. But you can't. But they're stuck in their I want to be an entertainment company ways, and you know what? It's going to backfire on them
Well, and
because
it seems like Paramount in many ways is what's calling the shots more and more with like
yeah,
creative direction and marketing directions. And you know, Hasbro is a toy company, and you know, as a kid, man, once I discovered Joe, other toy companies didn't exist. And when as an adult collector, I mean, you were excited every time Hasbro picked up something because, you know, Mattel would do it. Mattel, outside of He-Man stuff, Mattel doesn't have a great track record for boys. They really don't. You know, okay, $6 million Man, yeah, we're going way back, but 80s, they were not a boys company outside of Hot Wheels and He-Man.
Yeah, it was all about like Kenner and Hasbro, and then
Yeah.
Hasbro bought Kenner and swallowed it all up. But
And it's just sort of so, but as you've been, you know, especially since you're no longer at, but you know, even before then, when you were at Hasbro, I was seeing you all over the place at Comic-Con and New York Comic-Con, you know, and all of these. And when you're working the booth, were you hearing that there was a real hunger for military figures still? And was it limited to just one age group, or was it kind of across the collecting spectrum?
It was mostly like older collectors, you know, guys our age, that kind of thing. But there was at the Marvel booth every year at Comic-Con, there was always, when are you guys going to do 6-inch Joes? Like that was always a thing. Like it was always there, and I just never understood why. Like, and several other people have tried doing it before I did it on the Joe brand. So it was kind of like this thing where it was like a running joke, like, oh, let's see how far you'll get with it. And I got the furthest. Like I had items, I had item numbers, I got to sculpting. You know, the wave plan was set out, and then it's like, no, done. But it was like I thought we were good. And then nope. So everyone was like, yeah, someone else will try it now. So
it actually had some level of pre-production work.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And okay, so moving on, now that you're free from corporate constraints and you're able to do your own thing with this, how did, like, what influenced, besides Joe, what influenced the character creation and some of the direction that we've seen in Action Force? Because if you go to Velaverse.com, you will see that it's not just a bunch of random military figures. There's a mythos to this. Oh no, there he is. Okay, he's back.
Yeah.
So what were some of your influences in creating this?
So much. I mean, it's hard not to say Joe, because my office is my Joe room. So I'm sitting in my Joe room designing these characters with every single G.I. Joe on my wall. So it's, you know, when I was sort of thinking of this line, I'm like, well, how did they do it? Okay, they did it this way, but then you saw in 83, 84, it just evolved. And I wanted to do it the same way. I wanted to do it. I wanted to do G.I. Joe without calling it G.I. Joe. So I pretty much followed that same model. But as far as like characters, I mean, I don't know. I would just think of like cool characters, and, you know, where I'd see a movie. So like Karak is, people have kind of guessed it early on, like what influenced that character. So if you know Matthew McConaughey movies, you might guess it. But, you know, I tweaked him a bit, but there's like you could tell there's a little bit of influence. There's influence in like all the characters. Like, for instance, like Pandora. Like when I was thinking of her, there are so many different people involved and have influence on that character, just because of I feel like she has such a deep story to her. Same thing with Eclipse. Like the females, I feel like are really, really deep characters. You know, so I always, you know, and then it's fun to think about when I'm designing these characters, like, okay, well, if they did an Action Force movie, who would play this character? And it's like kind of fun to think of things that way. But yeah, there was so much that influenced the line, but really nothing. It all just kind of, a lot of it came organically. You know, I would just think like, okay, well, I want a bad guy. All right, well, I want him to look this way. And then I would just think it would just start rolling, and then I'd start sketching things out, and it would all just kind of come together. But I would also always like change things. Like High Point was kind of supposed to be the Condor. He was supposed to be like the number one Action Force guy, like the Duke. But I never really, not that I didn't like the character, I just didn't feel like he was as strong of a character. And I had Condor, and I was like, wow, Condor's really cool. And then, my buddy was like, hey, you should really have like an all in black British SAS trooper. And I was like, well, I got one. He's a stretch goal. But then I ended up moving him and making him a British SAS trooper kind of as that Action Force throwback. And then I was like, you know what? He's the guy. He's like one of the head Action Force leaders. So that's how he kind of rose from the bottom of the list to the top of the list. But everyone else was always kind of where they are.
Okay. And okay, so and then when you were creating the mythos of all of this behind it, was this one of those things where did you have a general idea going in, or was it sort of like you sat down, you looked at the design, and man, the story just started to come, onto its own?
Yeah, I was thinking of the story as I was designing the characters. So, I would think, I know I wanted like factions, and I know I wanted this sort of broken United States kind of element to it. So that's how that all happened. But I thought of the story very early on. So it wasn't like a director rewriting a script as he's filming the movie. It was more just like I was designing figures, but based off of a loose idea. But then I had flushed out the story and got that ready so that this way I was then populating the story with these new characters. And that made it that much easier.
Okay. In terms of, and obviously no bias here with this, how, if you were going to stack up, because I mean, you've got the prototypes, and you've sent some of them off to Ruben to be painted, which by the way, Ruben, you're killing it, man.
Yeah, Marauder Ruben's doing the painting on the Action Force prototypes.
But when you got them in hand, okay, so you designed them, but what was it like to see the creation in tangible form, and did they hold up to what you were hoping?
They did. I only got to have them in hand for a short period of time, so I had to rush to get China to actually do the printed copies for me. So they printed all the parts, and they sent them to me, and then I spent 2 nights, all night long, cleaning up the parts, drilling them, putting the pins in, sanding them down, and just putting them together, and then literally overnighted them to Ruben to paint, because I knew we were like short on time before the launch, and to have them for Joe Fest. So it was cool when I was able to build one figure, because China actually they missed some of the part. They missed all the lower abdomens of all the one body. The only full figure I had was Karak. So he was the one that I kind of posted online first, because he was the only one I was able to build totally and have everything. So, it was almost like I had my baby and then I gave it up for adoption. Like it was just gone. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Ruben when we get to Joe Fest, because I can get my models back, and then I can actually like have them, and then I'll take them home with me, and they'll be on display the whole time. So I'll really be able to like soak that in. So I haven't, and the only thing I've seen is his painted images. I haven't seen these in front of me yet, which is kind of a bummer, So it's like I can't wait for next weekend just so I can kind of get my hands on them.
I was gonna say, you're gonna need like a private moment just to kind of drink these things in for a little bit.
Well, he's getting there on Thursday, the same day I am. So we're gonna meet up, and I'll get them from him. And I got a really nice display case to put them in, so I'm gonna pose them out as much as I can and display all their accessories. So I'll have like Thursday and then early Friday to kind of deep dive into them again, and then set them all up and just kind of be happy with them after I display them.
So, okay, we've mentioned Joe Fest a couple of times here. That is next weekend. It is Friday evening and then Saturday.
Yep.
You are going to be there. You are going to have the painted protos on hand.
Yep.
What can people expect from the debut of Valaverse or Action Force in a convention setting?
I'm kind of going all out. It's not just going to be me at like one rinky table with the figures. I have a booth. I have 3 tables. I have banners. I have art prints for sale. I have a Joe Fest exclusive art print done by Ron Rudat, which I haven't announced that yet.
Whoa!
I haven't shown the print yet. Ron did one of the Action Force characters, and I made a print of it. And since Ron will be at the show, you'll be able to purchase the print at my booth, and then you can go and get it signed by him since he'll be there. So, and it's just for Joe Fest. There's only a limited amount of 50 of those prints for sale, and then I'll have prints of the other Action Force characters, like some of the stuff that my illustrations and other illustrations. And I'll have some stickers, and then T-shirts. These are the T-shirts that'll be for sale at the booth as well. I got all sizes. I also have a female tank top, which is really nice. So all you female fans out there, if I have any female Action Force fans, come by and get a tank top because it'll be hot in Augusta. And then I'll have the display case with the Action Force figures in it. So there'll be a lot to kind of get into at the booth. So I'll be there talking to everyone, and I'm bringing a buddy with me, so he'll be able to, ring people up for things. This way, it won't take me away from like talking to people, and engaging. So that's what I really want to do. I want to talk to everyone, the people that do want to come by the booth and like talk Action Force.
And so, if you're going to Joe Fest, which you should be, then this is your chance to actually talk to a project creator. While the project's still funding, and Joe fans really haven't had this opportunity in a long time.
Yeah, it's a very the way I'm doing this Kickstarter, I think, is way different than anyone's done a Kickstarter before. So if it works, maybe I'll change things. But if it crashes and burns, then I'm like, well, that didn't work. So
it just means you'll come back with version 2.
We'll see. This has taken a lot out of me. If it doesn't fund, I'll hide in a hole for 6 months at least, licking my wounds.
I still have confidence. Again, there's nothing like it out there. So we've got, for the first time, for all of you who have said, "Hey, I want my 6-inch Joes. Where's my 6-inch Joes?" We've heard that. I mean, look, Hasbro's not doing crap with our brand right now. Outside IDW, and I'm sorry, I really don't count the world's smallest G.I. Joe figures that are licensed that people have debuted this week. That, to me, that's a token gesture to keep trademarks in play. Honestly, it just doesn't.
Exactly. That's 100% why they do it. That's definitely why they do it.
Yeah, it's not. It's like, well, we should do something with it. Yeah, okay, give us some money, do whatever the hell you want. We'll give you a little bit of approval. Yeah. Here's some control art, mazel tov. But for all of you out there who have been wanting military figures to go with your Legends, or to go with your Star Wars Black, this is your shot. And I'm not trying to sound like those guys on PBS, if you like the quality programming here, you've got to contribute now. But seriously, this is a shot, like what we saw with Boss Fight Studios when they funded, like we've seen with Marauder, that, fans are willing to put their money behind a project. And actually, even like we saw with Cowboys, with Diamond Novel Legends, which is finally shipping. They're in Chicago. I really want to drive up there and steal them from a customs lot. John said no. Paul said I could if I wore a cowboy outfit. So, but, this is your chance to kind of put your weight behind something that you want to see done. And, again, as you've seen with Bobby before, when Bobby would post, the butterfly joints, wasn't in the plan. Fans wanted it. It's in the plan. So this is a good chance. So again, it's funding on Kickstarter.com. Just look up either Action Force or Valaverse. I've tested. I found it both ways. You better fund the damn Bone Collector. That's all I'm saying. Because
because you'll I'll have him on display at Joe Fest. So Ruben's painting that one now. So he's a good one.
Killing me that I can't go now. Killing me. But because that was one of the ones that I was going to be like, hey, Bobby, look over there. Then I'm just like running out the door. And clearly you'd be able to tackle me because my back is for crap. So anyway, this is about all we're going to do for tonight's Just Another G.I. Joe show. We're cutting it short. And there's a reason we're cutting it short. Is Bobby and I are going to be back here in about 15 minutes on the Valaverse Facebook page. And it's not going to be so much just the standard Q&A stuff with Joe centric. This is going to be more purely about Action Force, and we're going to turn the screen share over. And unlike when my good buddy Mike does it, it's hopefully not going to be Tunnel of Death. That Bobby can pull up some images and talk about whatever he wants. Again, if anybody, okay, is it Michel Gervais just actually posted a question? He said, first of all, I'm free to butcher his name. I really hope I got it right, buddy. He says, Bobby, he loves your brutal honesty about Hasbro, and he loves the decision to make the lenses on the Swarm Trooper's helmet translucent. Yeah. Which I didn't even get to the Swarm Troopers because I was trying to keep us on schedule tonight. We're going to talk more about individual characters over on the Facebook page.
Yeah, for sure.
So seriously, guys, take a break, go load up on some liquids, because we're going to be back here for about at 7 Central, 8 Eastern, because Bobby's Eastern time. I'm still in God's time zone, which is Central time. You can take the boy out of the Midwest. You can't take the Midwest out of the guy. It's when I lived in Boston, everything was still based on Central. But and we're going to talk pure Action Force. So, and again, because Facebook's a little easier to do comments, please throw in your comments. You have a chance to talk to the dude tonight, and he apparently seems to love talking to everybody. So
I do. Send all your comments. As soon as I get the comments on Kickstarter, on Facebook, and Instagram, I respond right away. So yeah, any questions you got, keep them coming.
All right, guys, that's it for this week of Just Another G.I. Joe show. 100% Sans Club Rants this week, which I think they're at 50% now on the sale. Apparently, I missed it in. And they still have the final 12 in stock. So at 50, that's kind of a kick in the crotch. But enough about that. Also, notice the only thing that we had Tiger Force was the orange color. That is the extent that I'm throwing a bone to Mike. Mike, I really hope your strawberry shortcake convention is going well and that you get all those pretty smelling dollies that you were after. So that's it, guys. We're going to sign out. You can follow me at Joe Battlelines on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and pretty much anywhere. I promise I'll be updating the site. You can follow Bobby at Valaverse on Facebook, valaverse.com. Is it the Valaverse on Instagram?
It's the Valaverse on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay. Yeah. Literally track it down. The guy's a madman at posting content lately. I mean, it's ridiculous. I feel like I've got the figures in hand just from seeing all this stuff. So that's it. We've been on for 48 minutes. We'll be back in 11. So over at Facebook, facebook.com, the Valaverse, go now.
Sweet.
And we done.